For this problem, we are finding the domain of a rational function. The domain of a rational function is what values for x that we can plug in for the function. So if you look at my first function, I have f of x equals x squared over x minus y. When I'm talking about domain, it's what values of x. What values of x can be plugged in to the function. Okay, now, if you've got your calculator close by, you can take your calculator and you can do, I want you to do some division. And remember, division and fractions are the same. So on your calculator, I want you to do 4 divided by 0. 4 divided by 0. And when you do that, you are going to get error or undefined on your calculator. Now I want you to do 0 divided by 4. Okay, and when you do 0 divided by 4, your answer is just 0. So 0 in the numerator is okay. 0 in the numerator is okay. However, a 0 in the denominator is what we have to prevent. So we can't have 0 in the denominator. That's what makes it undefined. So when we are finding the range of a rational function, we don't need to focus on anything except the denominator. Okay, so let's look at our first one right here. I am just looking at this x minus 3. X minus 3. So I am going to say x minus 3 cannot be 0. Okay, x minus 3 cannot be 0. And so when I solve that, I get x cannot be 3. X cannot be 3. Now, the place that sometimes students get confused by this is because we're being asked to write it in interval notation. An interval notation is when we look at a number line. So what I encourage students to do, when they have what x cannot equal, I would draw a number line. So here's my number line right here. Okay, here's 0, and then I have 1, 2, 3. Here's 3. Okay, my x values can't be 3. So I'm going to put a circle right there because that circle says I can't have that number. But I can have all of these numbers, and I can have all of these numbers. So when I write this in interval notation, I have to start at the furthest most part of the number line. So interval notation starts with negative infinity. Then I am able to go all the way up to positive 3, but I'm not including positive 3. That's why I have a parentheses there. A parentheses means that that number isn't included. Then the second part, so union means or. Now I start at my 3 because I'm going in my number line left to right, and then I'm going to positive infinity. So the actual answer to this is this down here in interval notation. That is the answer to the first problem, is written in interval notation. And again, you don't have to worry about the numerator. The only thing that you're worried about is what you cannot have in the denominator. Because if you have 0 in the numerator, your answer is just 0. It's 0 in the denominator that gives you an error. Okay, now I'm going to erase this, so you need to pause it if you need more information there. And then we're going to do our second one. Okay, so our second one that we're looking at, we're still looking at what values of x can be plugged into my function. And this time my function is g of x equals x minus 2 over x squared minus 6x plus 8. We are only focused on the denominator. The numerator doesn't matter. If I get 0 in the numerator, then my answer is just 0. And we can have 0 divided by any number, but we cannot have a 0 in the denominator. So I am focused on this x squared minus 6x plus 8 cannot be equal to 0. Okay, so I'm going to factor this. I have an 8. I have a positive number for my product. And this is factoring, and hopefully we all remember factoring. I have a positive 8 for my product. Since I have a positive number, that means both of my numbers are going to be positive or both of my numbers are going to be negative. I have a negative sum So that means that both of my numbers in this situation, because I have a positive product, that both of my numbers are going to be negative. So I have -4 and -2, because -4 times -2 gives me +8. -4 plus -2 gives me -6. So I'm going to factor this to x minus 4 times x minus 2. And that cannot be equal to 0. So I'm going to have x minus 4 cannot be equal to 0, and x minus 2 cannot be equal to 0. So x cannot be 4, and x cannot be 2. Okay, so I want to draw a number line, and the number line helps you to put this in order. So here's my number line up here. So the number line really, really helps when you have to write it in interval notation. So I have 0 right here, and then I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Now, I'm going to put a circle at 4 because my answer cannot be 4. And I'm going to put a circle at 2. Now, my answer can be all of these things from -infinity to 2, in between 2 and 4, and then from 4 all the way to +infinity. Now, a couple of things can happen here. If you are only looking at our answers right here, you may just look real quick and you may do -infinity to 4. And then you may say, okay, then I've got 4 to 2. And then I've got 2 to infinity. Okay? But this is incorrect, because you didn't account for how the number line went. That's why it's such a good idea to look at the number line. Okay? Now let's just say you did look at how the number line went. And you're thinking, okay, 4 and 2. So another mistake that students make quite a bit is they'll say, okay, -infinity to 2. And then they'll say union 4 to infinity. Okay, but that is incorrect also, because you've got to account for those numbers in between 2 and 4. Okay, what our x can't be is our x can't be 2 and it can't be 4. It can be everything less than, in between, and greater than. So drawing a number line when you're having to figure out what the domain is prevents you from making some of those mistakes. So we're going to start down here at -infinity. So I have -infinity, and I go all the way to +2. Then I have union, and I have 2 to 4. And then I have another union, and I have 4 to infinity. And so that is my answer in interval notation. Okay, and I'll do these videos from time to time, but don't hesitate to make a special request. If you have found that a problem is more difficult than another type of problem, don't hesitate to send me a picture. It's easiest if you send me a picture like what I have up here, but I also can usually go back and find where it is that you're struggling. Have a good afternoon.